Question Document Examination, Module 4, titled Determining the Age of Question Document. Determining the age of a question document is a critical part of forensic document examination, which is crucial for verifying its authenticity, detecting fraud in civil and criminal cases, and also establishing a valid timeline. Let's talk about key reasons for determining document age. Number one, for verification of authenticity. So this will ensure a document, particularly an historical one, was created at the time it claims to be. Number two, fraud detection. To identify forged documents such as wills, contracts, receipts, and promissory notes that may have been created long after their supposed date to fabricate evidence. Number three, chronological verification. At times, a document needs to be the age of a document needs to be determined in order to confirm if a document was altered, e.g., perhaps a paragraph added to a contract later, maybe years later, after the creation of it. And number four, identifying material discrepancies. Determining the age of a question document is best done using anachronisms, a do no harm approach. Because these documents often serve as vital documents or vital evidence in legal proceedings. Forensic document examiners prioritize non-destructive testing, the one we call NDT, non-destructive testing. So these methods allow for deep analysis without altering the physical or chemical integrity of the paper or ink, because it is possible that the court may still want to make reference to the original document. An anachronism in question document examination occurs when an item or a component found on a document exists at a time that is inconsistent with the date the document claims to have been created. Anachronism in simple terms is therefore it is proof that a document could not have been written on a stated date because it contains technology or information that did not yet exist. So, determining anachronism is one of the most powerful, non-destructive ways to prove a document is fraudulent. Before we go to the methods that we use in detecting anachronisms, let us examine types. So, types of anachronism and document examination. Types of anachronism in document examination. The first one we are going to discuss is technological or material anachronisms. Technological or material anachronisms. This involves the physical component of the document. For example, the ink composition. If a document is dated 1985, for example, but the chemical signature of the ink after we might have used spectral analysis on it matches a dye formula patented in 1995, the document is an anachronism. Paper optical brightener, that we call OBA. So most modern paper contains optical brightening agents. These are chemicals or reagents the chemical that we put in papers during the manufacturing process that make it whiter than usual, because paper is made from wood, and wood need to be bleached. Even after bleaching, you still see they don't have perfect white. So to make it whiter than usual, there are some chemicals that are mixed with them so as for them to be brightened. So optical brightening agents to make them appear whiter under UV lights. If a document dated 1950, for example, is found to contain paper with high levels of modern fluorescent brightness, it is a clear sign of fraud. So another physical component that we are going to consider under technological or material anachronism, is the printing technology. An examiner might find that a document dated 1990 was produced using a specific laser printer toner formula, or a font, a kind of typeface that was not digitally released until 2005. Every typeface has a date of release. So this one is one of those things that we check, but we will explain that one better later. So I said the first one is technological or material anachronism. So the second one is information stroke contextual anachronism. This is about the content written on the page. So you have to check the content that you have on the page. For example, the corporate branding. A document, if it is an official document, a document dated 2000 that claims to be from a company using a logo that was not yet designed until 2012. That is anachronism. Post-dated event. A contract dated 2010 that contains a reference to a law passed in 2015, or a business contract involving a company that did not incorporate until 2018. That is important. So that is a pointer to a fraudulent document. Anachronism rely on identifying items that don't belong. Examiners look for using non-destructive tools. So we are going to discuss about core forensic methods. Forensic examiners use the following techniques to identify chronological inconsistencies in a question document. The first one we are going to consider is font and typography analysis. Examining the digital fonts used in a document to see if they were commercially available at the time of the document's purported execution. Every document, in a printed document, every font used in creating the document has a date of release. Every font has a date of release, and that date of release can be used to determine the time when the document was created. For example, if Comic Sans MS is identified on a document, and because of the fact that this was released in 1994, if you're able to get it on a document dated 1993, then that's a pointer to a fraudulent document. If you want to detect the name and the time of a particular font that is on a document, all you need to do is to use a special tool, a software. Most of these software are free on the internet. One of them is My Font. We call it My Font. You can get it at www.myfont.com. www.myfont.com. So this can be used to identify a specific typeface and also cross-reference their release date. Another methods we consider is the substrate or the paper examination. We look at the paper to look for watermarks. Identify unique watermarks design that can be traced to a specific manufacturer and production period. Every watermark has a date that the manufacturer inserted it or impressed it on the paper. So by the time we see the watermark, we can identify, that will help lead us to identify the manufacturer, and the manufacturer now can give us the date of production. Then optical brightness. Detecting chemical additives like optical brightening agents, which only became common in paper manufacturing after the 1940s and 50s. So if there's any paper or any document that is alleged to be created around before this period, before 1950s or 1940s, it can be challenged. Then we can also look at the physical artifacts and chemical impression. So at times you look at the document and you consider some artifacts on it. That is, most of the machines that we use evolve over time. For example, the printers, the photocopiers, the machine that were used around before 1990s. The document they produce on these machines were definitely different from with the patterns. The patterns of the marks they make, it cannot be the same with the printers or photocopiers that were made after the 1990s. So this also can be used to know that a particular printer that was used to produce a document did not exist during the purported era. Another thing we can examine and we can take note of is the staple holes or fasteners. These are like they are tools also that we use in creation of document at times to maybe to fasten them together or to hold them together. So if you check the type of paper clips or staples or binding that were used, if it doesn't match the time purported to the time of creation, the purported time of creation of the document, then it's a pointer to the fact that something is definitely wrong. Another thing you can consider is that of the ink and toner dating. Because we are not going to use any type of destructive method, so I will not talk about chromatography. So, but we can use microscopy to detect whether a type of toner or ink can be paid to a particular date, because the ink, the composition of different inks and that of toner, they are not the same. And because of the fact that the toner that were made after some technological advancement had been totally changed, it is easy for us to say this toner or this ink has not been existent during so period. And lastly, the one that's lastly, linguistic and terminological analysis. Linguistic and terminological analysis. We also call it a stylometry or lexicostatical dating. So, and what are those things that we look for? The most common smoking gun is a word of technology or concept that did not exist at the time. Any concept that did not exist at the time, maybe technology or concept. So let's consider this the following examples on linguistic and terminology analysis. Under linguistic and terminological analysis, the first thing you are going to consider is neologism. Neologism. That is a new word. Each time there are words that are common to some era. The case of Adolf Hitler's diary. Adolf Hitler's diary. I made mention of that in one of the past modules. The Adolf Hitler, after a group of people began to suspect that this diary was forged, then a group of question document examiner began to work on it, and after performing some tests on it, they also discovered one thing very, very important under neologism, and that what they discover is a word that was not in common use, that was never inconsistent with how high ranking Nazis spoke in the early 1930s. And what is that word? The word is a Stormabteilung. This word they saw the word in the diary, and these people, the question document examiner, look at it, analyze it, and say no, this word does not it is never inconsistent with how high-ranking Nazis spoke in the early 1930s. So it's one of those things they used to debunk the allegation that Hitler wrote the diary. Let's move on. Another thing is modern tech, that is modern technology. If a letter purportedly written in 1985 mentions testing, a friend or googling information. If a letter purportedly written in 1985 mentions testing a friend or googling information, it is an instant anachronism, because testing is a verb that didn't enter common parlance until the late 90s or early 2000s. So if you see a letter purported to have been written around 1985 or before 1985, and the word Mr. A testing his friend, or he Google for his friend, he Google for information, that is an anachronism. Now let's move on. Another thing we consider is semantic shift, that is changing meanings. There are some words that existed but meant something entirely different in the past. In the 17th century, the word bully was a term of endearment, similar to darling. So a threat letter from 1950s using bully as an insult will be a red flag. So if you see a letter or a document or that contains a threat letter, a document titled or a threat letter dated 1950 using the word bully as an insult would be a red flag. So during that time in the 17th century, bully was never an insult. Bully was endearment, was a word that we used to use like a that we use like a darling. The same thing in the 14th century. The 14th century, the word nice, N-I-C-E, nice, meant foolish or ignorant. So if there is a medieval document praising a certain king to be nice, that would be suspicious if the context implies he was wise, because nice in the 14th century meant foolish or ignorant, foolish or ignorant. So there's a semantic shift that is changing of the meaning of the word totally. So we have to look for all these things also. And also another thing we consider is grammatical and syntactic evolution. Grammatical and syntactic evolution. The way we structure sentences changes over time. For example, the do auxiliary in early modern English, like Shakespeare's time, do use of do in questions, e.g., do you go? During that time, what they will say is, do you go? So, and that time it was still evolving. It was still evolving. So, if a newly discovered 15th century manuscript uses modern question structure like why did he leave instead of why left he, it suggests a modern writer. It's only a modern writer that you say why did he leave. But in the 15th century writer will say why left he. So that is grammatical and syntactic evolution. Another example is the word thou or you, thou. Now, forgeries of 17th century legal documents often fail to use thou and you correctly according to the social hierarchy of the period. Where in that period, the word thou is being used for somebody of high hierarchy. So don't use thou for people anyhow or you for people anyhow. But if it's a forgery, the word thou or you will not be used just like they use it in those days. Even when the forger is using thou, he will use it wrongly. So another thing that we are going to consider under linguistic and terminological analysis is titles and institutional names. Using a name for a country, department, or rank that didn't exist yet is anachronism. For example, in Nigeria, a document dated 1950 referring to the Central Bank of Nigeria is anachronism because the Central Bank has not been existent until 1958. The same thing with currency, our currency. Now, if there is a document, maybe a contract dated 1968 referring to the currency of transaction in the document as naira, that will be a forgery because Nigeria was using the word pound until 1973. So any mentioning of naira before 1973 will be a forgery. And another thing, lastly, is idioms and slang. Using pop culture, so pop culture phrases before they were popularized. Let's consider this case study. Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Godwin Emefiele, 2024 to 2025. This case serves as a contemporary benchmark for forensic document examination in Nigeria. This case serves as a contemporary benchmark for forensic document examination in Nigeria financial crimes. The setting is the FCT High Court, Maitam Abuja, presided over by Honorable John Hamza Muazu. The issue is this alleged forgery of presidential directive used to withdraw $6.23 million from the Central Bank of Nigeria. What is the forensic application? The prosecution witness, including CBN officials and investigators, testified that the document purported signed by former President Muhammadu Buhari and former SGF boss Mustafa was fraudulent. And what is the findings? The findings: forensic analysis focused on the physical and physiological characteristics of the signatures. It was determined that the documents were cloned or forged, as the signature lacked the natural variation and line quality of the genuine signers. No, we talk about natural variation in the other. We talk about the natural variation in and line quality of the genuine signals in our previous module. So the boss Mustafa testified that the signature did not originate from his office, and forensic reports supported this claim by highlighting discrepancies in the ink and stroke patterns. Another case study is that of Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Alhaji Abdul Wahid Popola in the the High Court of the FCT. The issue: the defendant was accused of forging a Ministry of Federal Capital Territory offer of terms of grant, that is a right of occupancy, to obtain 2.05 million from a complainant. So what is the forensic application in this case? The FCC collaborated with the Abuja Geographic Information Systems, the AGIS. So the outcome: forensic examiners use non-destructive visual and digital comparison to prove the document was a clone copy by comparing the question document exhibit P3 with the genuine version provided by the original lottery exhibit P32. The court applied section 101 of the Evidence Act to visually confirm that the signatures and seals were materially different. The court held that the discrepancies were obvious, leading to a conviction for forgery. So this is where we are going to stop this for this course. Thank you and God bless you. In conclusion, finding an anachronism is often the smoking gun for a forensic examiner. It provides absolute non-destructive proof that a document has been backdated or forged.